So, you are thinking of moving to Canada, eh? Well, before you make that huge life-changing decision, please follow along and listen to my story. And if you, like me, are British, you may want to consider a lot of the things I'm going to explain to you. Hi, my name's Debbie. Welcome to Stronger Days Ahead. I am a wife, a mother, a grandma, and I work full-time. So, first of all, I want to say, if you're considering just selling up and moving here, please do your research. Don't do as I did and just sell everything and everything's gone my whole life. Trinkets, everything. I had nothing shipped here, which was my first big mistake. All I came with was my 11-year-old daughter. We had a suitcase each and a few little things that I treasured, mainly photographs. That was all I came with. As I was marrying a Canadian man who had set up home here, and I thought, how hard can this be? Believe you me, it's hard. Very hard. Unless you are having everything shipped over. The cost of that I'm not sure of, but I can't imagine it being cheap. So that was my first big mistake. And because I'd had 36 years in the UK, I had my home, I had my kids, all their memories, the material things to those memories were gone. And I spent many months looking for those things I had in the UK. A recipe book or, some trinket or other or some item of clothing. I'd forgot they were gone. And I found that very hard. It led me to quite a depressive state. So that is the first thing you need to think about. The second thing is the extreme weathers. And I am talking extreme. Here in Canada, we have very long and cold winters. And I'm talking cold. So you won't have to worry about what you look like when you go out. You're going to be more concerned whether you still have toes. You will be bundled up that much. You will look like the Michelin Man. So forget glamour and all that here in the winter. Everybody looks the same. We look like bears dressed up. So the only way I can describe the cold is the snot up your nose will freeze, your eyelashes will stick together. You won't feel your fingers. Just a normal pair of gloves that we're used to wearing in the UK, forget it. That's like spring weather type of clothing here. You are going to be wearing thermal long johns, thermal everything. So then we'll move from the winter, which typically lasts about 5 months. The long, dark winters. So although I will say we do get a lot of sunshine in the winter and it can look very pretty, that first snowfall looks beautiful. It really does. I mean, it's very photogenic, but it's not something us Brits are used to or enjoy being in. So then we go from that to the spring. The spring isn't like our spring in the UK. The spring here is just mud and more mud. Because all of that snow we had, all of that ice runs into the ground. So, forget going out and digging your garden or things like that, because it ain't going to happen. You're going to wait till we're almost into the summer when that has had time to drain away. And if we get lots of rain, then forget it. So then that leads on to the summers. The summers here are excessively hot. And I'm talking that hot that you don't want to go out. You just want to sit in the house where there's air conditioning. You will run your car to get your car cold before you get in it, because you won't be able to touch the steering wheel. It will be that hot. So, you're staying in all winter where it's nice and warm, and then you're staying in all summer where it's nice and cool. So in the car, you will run your AC all the time, which then leads to a lot of gas being used. So gas here is very expensive. It's just an ongoing thing. Everything costs more here. The more you use one thing, it leads to a higher cost of the other thing. So also here in the summer, we have a lot of biting bugs, lots of them, and they are awful, absolutely awful, but they love me. They absolutely adore me. I am constantly surrounded by them. They bite me, and it's not just a little bite that, goes away after an hour or so. Like my husband can get bit and it's forgotten about. Me, I'm still scratching that same bite weeks later. I have to take antihistamines. I have to wear lotions and potions. I go out smelling like a bottle of DEET because that's what I have to constantly spray on myself so I don't get bit. And if I see a mosquito, which I call the national bird of Canada, I run a mile. And if, God forbid, one gets in my house, I cannot sleep until I have found it, because it will find me and it will bite me to death. So there's that to consider. We have black flies, we have deer flies, we have every biting insect you can think of that flies around. So we don't have poisonous things though, luckily. So summers aren't much better than the winters. Although during the winter, when I first came to Canada, I did learn a lot of new crafts and hobbies. Things that in the UK I never would have seen myself doing. Crocheting, knitting, jigsaw puzzles, quilting, cake decorating, you name it, I've learned it. I've bought all the stuff. I could write a book on it. And each winter I find a new project to do. Yes, it's very time, it uses your time during the winter because you're stuck inside all the time once you get home from work, if you are going to work. Which then leads me on to work. Here in Canada, there's no work-life balance. None. I find I work, I come home, I sleep. It's like rinse, wash, repeat kind of thing. So to have a life here in Canada is very, very difficult unless you don't work. Making friends here in Canada is very difficult. It's such a multicultural place. We have all different nationalities here, which tend to stick to their own. And that's nice. I wish I had a bunch of British friends here. That would be great. I do have some. And, we have the banter because the Canadians do not understand our sense of humour. They just don't. Don't even try because you're going to be accused of all kinds of things. I mean, to me, I say to people, if I am polite to you, I really don't like you. Because in the UK, to insult somebody is kind of like a term of endearment. I will call myself a silly cow. You could not say that in the UK. In Canada. If you was to call somebody that, it is so offensive, you just can't. So accept the Canadians do not understand our sense of humour. They don't understand our comedy shows that we laugh at. They don't get the dry sense of humour. I know there's people in the UK like that too, but here it's really bad. Although I have made a lot of good friends here in Canada. I say a lot, I've made a few. I keep my circle very small. Because of everything I have lost and the marriage I got into when I moved here, which was based on a lot of untruths, I have trust issues. So if I allow somebody into my life, then I trust them. Luckily, in my workplace, I am a direct support worker in a group home, and we have a fantastic team, and I consider every one of my colleagues, well, I would say 99% of my colleagues, my friends. And our lives intertwine outside of work too. Phone calls, and things like that, birthdays, if somebody's ill, we're a very, very good, caring, friendly team. And I can honestly say I love every one of my work colleagues. I have made a very good friend from somebody a lot younger than me, who is young enough to be my daughter, and I consider her my daughter. So, you can build bonds here, but it's few and far between, as there is no intimacy here in Canada. I find people do not stick around. Canada is so big. It's so, the space is so vast that people move on, and it's not like in the UK where we have our towns where 99% of us are born and raised. We don't move on unless you're me. But when I go home, every one of my friends are still there, and it's very sad. We don't keep in touch, although I promised I would. Life happens, and life here is very busy, so you don't really keep in touch. But through social media, we see each other's pictures and everything, and comments and things like that. When I call my family back home, it's very sad. I mean, now thanks to the internet, it's easy to keep in touch. FaceTime and all that. We can actually see each other, but the time difference is huge. When I have time to sit down and make these calls, I sometimes forget the UK is 5 hours ahead. So I could be sitting here at 7 o'clock in the evening and think, oh, I'm going to call mum, or I'm going to call my brother. And then I have to think, oh, they're in bed. That's hard. And also, once you are speaking to them and you shut off that computer screen or whatever device you're using to talk to them, there's that, for me, there seems to be that void. They're gone. And it's not like when you're actually with somebody and you've gone out for coffee or shopping or whatever you choose to do. It's not like, you think, oh, when you say bye, I'll see you later. You're not going to see them physically, see them later. It's like you're not going to see them till you go home again. And for me, going home, I love to go home. I'm so close to my family, even though I'm so far away. I just love them to pieces. But when I leave, I find it's too emotional. It really is hard. As strong as I try to be on the day I'm leaving, I fall to pieces. I'm hugging my mom. I'm sobbing. It's just horrendous. So you've got to consider that too. It's not easy. It really isn't, unless you are a heartless person or you don't have family or anything like that. It is hard. So that for me is a huge con of being this far away. The reality of how far it actually is from the UK never hit me until I started to go back home. Excuse me. So this cup is very important to me. I actually found it here in a dollar store 11 or 12 years ago, and my dad used to drive the London bus, so I collect little things to do with the London bus, or anything to do with London actually. I was actually born in London. My parents are from London and I was raised up north. So anyway, going back to the story of people, when anybody watches our TV shows, Coronation Street, EastEnders, Emmerdale, they don't understand why we're always in the pub. So here we don't really have pubs. We have what they call them hotels, bars, and it's not like it is back in the UK. I always knew my local pub in my village, if I couldn't find somebody, go in there, they're probably there, or if they're not there, somebody will know where they are. It's very intimate and close-knit. You don't have that here. So if you are one of the people that like going to the local pub, you're not going to get the same thing here. We do, if you go into Toronto, have like the wine bars and things like that, but it's not the same as the pubs in the UK. So that for me was huge. It was one of the first things I ever noticed here as I'm driving from the airport up to where I was moving to. It was like, well, where are the pubs? That I wasn't used to not seeing pubs, every second row or whatever. But yeah, there isn't that intimacy that you have in the UK. So that is very difficult. So then I'm going to lead on to the food here. The food in Canada is a lot of fast food. You will gain weight. You will. Without a doubt, I did. I found Tim Hortons, and that was horrendous. For my waistline, it was horrendous. back in the UK, I only ever drank tea, no sugar, milk, no sugar, or black coffee. I then found I enjoyed drinking my coffee with 3 sugars and 3 cream. So, yeah, Tim Hortons is dangerous and you will become addicted. Luckily now, I don't go very often. It's declined so much that it just doesn't interest me. I like my coffee at home. Excuse me. So, people tend to eat out a lot here, which is becoming a little bit cheaper than buying groceries, and also the convenience of it. So everywhere you go, there's fast food places, there's pizza places, burger joints, you name it, you will find it here, and not very far from wherever you're living. So yes, you have to consider your waistline, which I didn't. And if you are used to certain foods back home in the UK, forget it here, because yes, you can find certain things. We do have British stores here. The prices are astronomical because of the import price, I guess. They jack the prices up so high. I remember not so long ago, I was really fancying Heinz tomato soup. And I went to the British store and paid almost $5 for a can of soup. Yet on the can, it stated 3 for £1, which is what we're used to in the UK. You're not going to get that here. Our milk comes in bags, which I struggled with in the beginning. I cut a huge corner off, and when I went to pour it in my coffee, the whole thing just spilled everywhere. I didn't know you were only supposed to snip the corner off. You put it in a jug. Yeah, it was just crazy. Milk in a bag, that was a new concept to me. So these are things that are small, but they can have a huge impact on your quality of life here. Chocolate here, although it will say Cadbury's on it, is not like chocolate from Cadbury's back in the UK. It tastes like wax. So I don't know what they do so different, but when I go home, I fill my suitcase with things I can't get here, or things that I'm not willing to pay an astronomical price for, such as gravy granules, sage and onion stuffing, OXO cubes, because you won't find those here. Things that we use a lot of in the UK, I bring back with me. Or mum will ship them over to me, but that's becoming an expense now, as to ship things to the UK or from the UK to Canada is very, very expensive. So here in Canada, we don't have Aldi, Lidl and all that. We don't have the low priced grocery stores. So again, that it's a huge the money that we spend on groceries is a huge chunk of our paycheck, because it is very, very expensive. Very. So I do cross the border into the States. I am lucky I don't live too far from the border, so I will go across to the States, where we have Walmart. We have Walmart here too, but the Walmart over in the States has a lot more variety, a lot more choice, and is so much cheaper. I can get medications off the shelf that you can't get here. Lotions, potions, all those kind of things I can get. Yes, I do lose money on the exchange rate, but I'm still able to buy things 50 to 60% cheaper over there than here. So again, I go over there and I stock up. So that leads me on to the money. Yes, we earn good money here in Canada. Is our money worth anything? Absolutely not. I earn good money, but every time I go home, I lose half of that in the exchange rate, excuse me. So, for every pound I buy, it's costing, maybe $1.50, which is huge. So again, that comes, how often can you afford to do that? Because I still like to have a vacation with my husband too. We like to travel and go abroad. So the money here is worthless anywhere. It's not on par with any other currency out there. I think at one time it was with the Australian dollar, but I don't want to go to Australia where I'm going to be eaten alive. So, that is another huge thing to think of. Our money is worthless, which then leads me on to say, everybody I know here, people at work, every immigrant that has come to Canada have all stated the same thing. They will not stay here when they retire. You could not possibly afford to stay in Canada when you retire unless you have worked for a long time here and you have a job with a good pension, which would be a highly skilled job. So here you will find a lot of seniors on the old age pension are living on the poverty line, and I firsthand have seen this. You will see the pensioners budgeting their money and penny pinching, and it's a choice of, do I pay my rent, do I buy medications, do I pay my bills, or do I feed myself? And that is a very sad, realistic way of life here for our seniors. So for me and my husband, although we both have well-paid jobs, neither of us have a private pension. So our house is our pension. It is our retirement. We will sell this and we are going to move to Malta, because since the UK came out of the European Union, my husband can no longer go and live there freely. And it would be a lot of jumping through the hoops and cutting red tape and all that for me to get him there. So as he is a Canadian Maltese citizen, Malta is the better option for us to go there. And I'm only 3 hours away from home in the UK. So I will always be there for my aging mum. And I can go there, as can my husband, for 6 months out of the year. And then we would go back to Malta. So that is, I'm really looking forward to that. I can't describe how ecstatic I am about that. I cannot wait to leave Canada. I will miss people that are dear to me very, very much. But I don't feel I have a life here, and I need my life to start. I need my husband's life to start, because when he had his heart attack, it really, really opened my eyes to how short life is. So going on to my husband having the heart attack, I then lead on to buying medications. Healthcare here is covered. We pay through our taxes, but it's like the National Health Service. It is covered. Medication, however, is not. In the UK, we pay the dispensing fee, which everybody, is just disgusted they have to pay that. Here, we pay for the medication and the dispensing fee. Luckily, I'm in a position where I have benefits, so my drug plan covers me and my husband for any medications we need, dental work, eyeglasses, it's covered. That is a huge blessing. Although I say it's covered, I still have to contribute every 2 weeks out of my paycheck towards it, but it makes it a lot cheaper in the long run. As when my husband had his surgery, after he had his heart attack, he is now on medications that cost $600 to $700. So that was a blessing. But then I know now I am tied to that job, because I may not get another job that will have benefits. So I need those benefits for my husband. So these are all things you need to consider. Dentistry work here is astronomically priced. Just for a regular fill-in, you're going to pay up to $400. And, for kids, it's not free, and yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on and on. Nothing here in Canada is free. Nothing. We get no help like we do in the UK. Although I do believe a lot of that has also changed there too. But here, like, my daughter is a single mom. She would have to work 3 jobs to have a decent income. There is no benefits here. There's no help. You're single, so what? Suck it up, find another job. And that's how life is here. So things like that, it's something you need to consider. It really is. You may not like the job you're going for, but if it has benefits, you're going to have to stick with it, because you will need those benefits. if you are aging or anything like that. But once I leave that job and I retire, then benefits are gone. I'm back to paying out of a small old age pension for any drugs I may need. Luckily, I don't need too many, but my husband does, just to survive. He's also diabetic. Diabetics here, it's not free. Nothing is free here. You pay. If you gained anything from watching this video and you have any more questions, please pop them in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe so you know when I'm uploading new videos. I have lots of wisdom, I guess, in being here in Canada. I do get asked a lot of questions from people that want to come to Canada, what it's like, and you know, such like. I'm not a specialist. I don't know anything about immigration. I could give you the basics, you know, point you in directions where to go, I guess, but I know nothing legal. So please feel free to pop it in the comments below if you have any questions, and I will do my best to get you the answers. But please follow along, because I do intend on uploading lots of videos about not just life here in Canada, but also the things that came along with making such a big move. The fun stuff, the sad stuff, the illnesses, everything, the mental states, everything that could possibly come with emigrating to a new country. Until then, please take care.